a deal back in 2000, literally almost right after we sold our business, Max Investment Group, to Fifth Third Bank, that I got contacted by a wonderful, wonderful man, George Wasmer, and said, hey, I've got this company, I know the owner, and would you take a look at it with me? And I said, sure. And Tom Sullivan, who everybody knows Tom Sullivan from RPM, Tom Sullivan and I and George went out and visited this company. It was a distribution business, had been around since 1957. And I love Tom Sullivan because I learned a lot from Tom Sullivan. We negotiated a price and shook his hand. And we were walking out, and I said, Tom, that was great. I said, there is one guy I want to get involved in this deal, and he's an attorney, and he's extremely bright. He's one of the best attorneys I know as it relates to deal-making structure. And I said, I think he might invest. And that was Carl Grassi at McDonald Hopkins. So we ended up buying the business, and Tom brought Jim Carman in as a partner. In the business, if you remember, business was doing all right, and then 07, 08 came, and it was some trying times. But we weathered the storm and performed extremely well still. And then subsequently, Carl and I bought George out and bought Jim Carman out, and then Tom Sullivan stayed in for a little piece, and we ran that business and ended up selling it to Applied Industrial. That was a deal, that was a successful deal, but from my perspective, the things that I learned in that deal as it relates to having the right people in the right seat, treating people the right way. We weren't there day to day, so we had to rely on management team to be successful, and we were kind of giving them the guardrails on how to do it. That was a great deal. The one thing that excites me about deal making, if you want to call it deal making, is part of it's the chase, part of it's the opportunity, but the other thing is and Carl Grassi and I do a lot together, is having a great partner and then being able to take that risk. You have to be a risk taker, because we've done, Carl and I have done a lot, and Ancora, we have done a lot. Typically, the projections you put out typically don't happen every year or in the beginning, and you've got to have the ability to count on your partner to weather the bad times. And for me, it's weathering those bad times and then creating something that is successful, and being part of something that's successful is what drives me every day. And I do think you have to be a risk taker. Now, it's a calculated risk, but it's still a risk taker because you are putting your own capital to work. And typically, Carl and I, and the deals that we have done, we have used, outside of Ancora, we have used our own capital. So you are putting your own capital on the table. And then even some of the deals that we've done at Ancora, our capital is right next to our investors. We're not doing anything that our investors aren't doing. So if they're putting money in the deal, we're putting money in the deal. We're big believers in that. And then the other thing is not being passive. We're not passive investors. We're active investors. And to me, that's critical, because I do believe the probability of success goes up when you're actively involved in the situation. When you're negotiating a deal, the best thing to have is good people around you. I will tell you, Carl Grassi is much tougher than I am in negotiating a deal, and that is a wonderful skill set he has. I'm probably a little softer on some of the other things that help a deal get going, but having the right people around you, and I've been fortunate that Carl and I have a strong relationship. He's tremendous in structure and in deal points. And to a point where you're not going to blow up a deal, but you can never be afraid to walk away from a deal. And I think having good advisors, good partners are critical in that negotiating environment, if you will, while you're looking at a deal and getting close to closing a deal.